Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Meadsy69 and welcome back to this video, which is the top 5 OP tanks in World of Tanks Blitz. Now, this is my opinion and my opinion only. Some of you may agree and some of you may not agree. So this is just my view. This is what I think the top 5 OP tanks is in the game. And for good reason. So to be an OP tank, people do get confused. Like at the moment, people are saying the Chrysler is OP. Now, just because it's got good armor and maybe a little bit of good gun depression, it doesn't make it OP. Any tank can have something good about it, and it doesn't mean it's OP. But when you have a tank, of course, a tank can be OP if it's just got one of those things. But when a tank has got all of those things, so when it's got great armor, great gun, great speed, great gun depression, then you can probably class that tank as OP. But of course, it doesn't mean it's going to be OP. So number 5 on my list of top 5 OP tanks is the VK100. Now, this tank is fairly new to the game, and many will agree, many won't agree, that this tank is OP. Now, it's slow, it is a slow tank, but it's got fantastic armor, it's got a little bit of gun depression, it's got a really nice gun with a really nice alpha. And overall, if you're in certain positions like I am in now, where you're holding a ridgeline and you are angled, you're just going to get bounce after bounce after bounce, whilst putting the damage in yourself. And you can see already we bounced 2,500 damage. We've only got 1,300 ourselves. Make that 2,900 damage. So we are also putting in the damage. So we're not just sitting back, side scraping, angling, getting the bounces. We're dealing the damage ourselves. So the block damage now has risen to 3,470. There is now only 4 tanks left. This Tiger 2 is a one shot, so we can poke forward, we can clear him up, which just now leaves 3 tanks, and which is the T28, the ISU, and this T34. So at this point, we are going to poke forward. We don't mind getting shot, but that T34 completely donks his shot, which means we can poke forward. Not quite. The gun depression is not that good, so it does mean we have to poke forward. But there is now only 2 tanks left. The ISU is going to get taken out very, very soon, and we're going to get another bounce from that T34. And that is pretty much all the bounces we are going to get this battle. So we're going to get one more shot in the T34, who is going to get a shot in return, but we get one more shot and our team clear him up. So 3,800 block damage, 3,100 damage, 35,000 credits. We get a first class, we get a scout patrol, 1,700 assistant damage on top of that. So this tank, played in the right hands, is completely OP, and that's why that tank is my number 5. Now moving on to my number 4, the 4th most OP tank in the game, and it is the WZ-121FT, tier 8 Chinese tank destroyer. Now this tank is just out and out OP. It really is OP, except for that shot on that leopard, but we will ignore that shot. And we get a bounce from the tier 9 medium, and then we get him once, we destroy his ammo rack, and our waffle can completely destroy him by ammo racking him. So we've only got 2 shots in, and we're not really in a decent position to hurt the enemy because we haven't got the gun depression. But this tank is my number 4 for many, many reasons. So it is a TD tier 8, and it's very low to the ground. It's got very, very troll armor, it's got a great gun, it's got great speed, it's got a really good reload. I have actually got a video coming out on this probably next week, pretty much an up-to-date review with a few battles, and it really, really is OP. You can deal damage so quickly, and with the speed of this tank you can also run away really quickly. The only downside is obviously the gun depression, but you don't really need that. I mean, in this battle we are in a position where we can't use it, but we just move forward and we get the shots out. And just over 8-second reload, and we are shooting again over 400 alpha damage. So this tank is just, in the Blitz fair you could win this in the lucky spin, and I spent quite a bit of money in the lucky spins in the fair. This was the main, I mean, you had the T22, but this was probably the main tank that I wanted to get. Every so often I do play it on my contributor account. I played it the other day, got a nice ace, which you will see in the review, and I just really love it. I'm hoping someday soon it will come back to the store. The only reason I didn't buy this tank, I missed out on it. Well, I didn't miss out on it, I didn't want to buy it because it was for sale for money. It wasn't for sale for gold, it was for sale for money. Now, if it was for sale for gold, then for sure I would have got this tank, because most likely I had the gold on my account, but I didn't want to have like 20,000 gold on my account and then have to put in another 40, I think it was like 48 pound for this tank. So it was a no-go. But again, that battle, easy 3.2k damage, 119,000 credits. So out and out, fantastic tank, and that is why that is my number 2. And before we get on to my number 3, which is the Heldon, because I know what the comment section is going to be. Bushka gets it all the time. When one of us YouTubers or contributors shout out to a tank that is completely OP, people then blame us if the tank gets nerfed. No, it does not work like that. I can do a YouTube video every single day saying this tank's OP, this tank's OP, this tank's OP. It doesn't mean it's getting a nerf. Not at all. Now, when Wargaming nerf their tanks, they go by stats, they go by data, and they look at the data, and when the data doesn't fit into how they want it, that's when they get a nerf. Just like the Death Star has just got a nerf. Now, the Death Star has never been nerfed, and people were saying, so why now? Well, before, not as many people were playing it, or not as many people were doing well, and recently we've had a lot of people play the tank, so, and they've been doing well. They've been doing more damage than it was expected, more win rate that is expected for Wargaming. So then they've decided, going by the stats and by the data, it needs a nerf, and that's how they nerf the tanks. They don't just go by opinions. They don't just say, I don't go to Wargaming and say, Wargaming, this Heldon, can you nerf it? Yeah, sure, Meaty, we'll nerf it. If you say so, it needs it. No, it doesn't work like that. So that is my little run out of the way. And number 3 on the list, which we've almost finished the battle, is the Heldon. Now, the Heldon is just, again, an out-and-out OP machine. It's 2 rounds or two shells in the clip, which are dealt every sort of 0.1 second at 0.2 seconds, and it can do 400 to 450 alpha, and that is every 9 seconds, which is crazy. And with the speed of this tank, you're doing 60-65 kilometers per hour with a 400 alpha gun every 8.9 seconds, which again, the armor is not so bad. It's not great, but it's not so bad. And there again, just under 3k damage, easy, very easy, and just under 100,000 credits. So that is why the Heldon is my number 3. Now, moving up to number 2, it's the Dracula. And again, I love this tank. When I want to play just for fun and earn credits, this is the tank I go to. And especially if you are in a platoon. If you're in a platoon of these, which me and my good friend Andy Everton is in now, you're going to win 80 to 90% of your battles, because it's just so much fun. It really is fun. The speed of the tank, the gun, it's got great gun, it's got great damage, it's got great reload. You can ram tanks, just everything about this tank. Now, if you're in SP1C here, or the VK behind, if you've got 2 Draculas coming towards you, you're going to be scared. And so right, you should be scared, because just look at we can take a shot, we can share hit points, no problem whatsoever. And you can see we've taken out the SP1C, we've now taken out the VK. I've still got more than half my hit points, Andy's still got more half his hit points, and now we're going to focus the Heldon. Now I do make a mistake in a minute, that was a poor shot, but now he's got a Dracula in front of him and a Dracula behind him, and he can only focus one, and while he's shooting Andy, I'm shooting him. Now I do make the mistake there, I do give him a little ram which pushed him into Andy, which sadly killed him. But we put him down to a one shot, and before he can turn, we can take him out for our third kill, just leaving 4 tanks left. And again, the acceleration on this tank, it's just it really is insane. The gun is really good, just everything about this tank, and people really want this tank. Now it is a fantasy tank, but I've not known anyone to want a tank as much as the Dracula. It's just wanted by everyone. Now, I have a clanmate who does not play fantasy tanks because it's not realistic. But yet he has this tank because it's just different. It just feels different. It's fun. And you can actually play Blitz and you can have fun. And you can have a lot of fun. Now, I've played battles in this tank where we've just done challenges. So, 2 of us in a platoon and we've just said, right, we can't shoot anyone on the red team. We're just going to drive up to the enemy spawn as quick as we can, and we're going to focus one tank, and we pick a tank and we just focus him. So within 30 seconds we've taken out a tank, and it's just hilarious. It really is funny. And again, here we've got 3 kills. We're going for a nice ram on the Nashorn. We're going to back up and we're going to take out the IS-2. So within 5 seconds we've taken out 2 tanks, 152,000 credits as well, 3k damage, easy 3k damage, and a first class. So that is why that is my number 2, and rightly so. Now, number 1, obviously, it's the Kennyotsu. Now, there's been a lot of talk about this tank recently, especially since the 5.5 update and the nerf of all the lower tier tanks on the lower tier premium tanks. And there is a lot of salty people out there that, because this tank didn't get touched, it was already the most OP tank in the game by a long shot, and the nerf of all the lower tier premiums, this didn't get touched, and people were so salty. Why didn't it get touched? Now it's even more OP than it already was. Yes, it's true, and the reason why Wargaming didn't want to touch this tank is because it will upset quite a few people. Well, not many people, but they didn't touch it because it doesn't really affect the gameplay in the lower tier tanks. And what I mean by that, obviously, if there's one in your team or against you, of course it is going to affect the team because it's the most OP tank in the game. It's got 4 shells, like 0.7 a second, and you've got like a 3-second reload after each one. So you're just pumping out 50 damage every 0.7 seconds, and then after you've done that, you pump out 100, 200 damage. 3 seconds later, you can do it all again. But the reason they didn't touch it, because there's not many people that have this tank. It's literally, it was on sale for, I think, like a few hours. So it's a very rare tank, and you're not going to see many. Now, to be honest, you shouldn't be playing tier 2 or tier 3 for long if you are grinding up the tiers, unless you're seal clubbing in a tank. Then if you're seal clubbing constantly, like just playing tier 3 or tier 4, then rightly so, I think you should come up against this every now and again. But you're not going to come up against it much at all, because it's a rare tank. It's a couple hundred people or has got this tank. So that's why Wargaming didn't touch this tank, because it doesn't really affect it. I mean, if you go and play tier 3 now, you go and play tier 3 for 50 battles, you might only see this once, or maybe not even once. And that's how rare this tank is. Now, people don't think it's that rare because people go on about it so much, but actually, in hindsight, if you go and play tier 2, tier 3 or tier 4 now, as I've said, for 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 battles, you're only going to come across this once or twice. And that is the truth. And people that say that's not true, go and test it yourself. Because it's rare and not many people have got it. And even if people have got it, they've got it because they was able to buy it. Just because they've got it, it doesn't mean they go and spam it all day long. I've got friends that have got it that probably hasn't played it in months because it's tier 3. It's tier 3. And if this was a tier 7, tier 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 tank, then of course Wargaming will definitely nerf it. But because it's lower tier and not many people, that's why they haven't touched it. But since the nerf, yes, this has become OP. And it's more OP because it's tier 3, it's got that insane DPM, the insane reload, and you're coming up against tanks, you're coming up against people that have never played the game, and they just do not know what the reload is like. So, rightly so, the Kennyotsu is the most OP tank in the game, and everyone in Wotb Blitz should agree with that. If they don't, then I do not know what planet you are on. So that, guys, is my top 5 most OP tanks in the game. If you agree or not, let me know. Let me know what you think the top 5 OP tanks is in the comment section. I'd love to see your thoughts and see what you think. So I'm Miji69. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will catch you all in the next one. Bye bye.